Turn up the dial, it's 10:30. We back. Spin that back show, all the classics on track. From 79 to 99, we're crossing the gap. Album reviews, little known facts, hip hop intact. Saturday mornings, dive into the history. Samples and stories, old school mysteries. From early South Static, Shiraz, and TDG. Roll up out of bean. Turn it up, let the vinyl spin. 10:30 sharp, where the stories begin. From the golden era, treasures within. Spin that back show every Saturday when we break it down, the legends and the lore. Every beat, every rhyme, uncover more. From Grandmaster Flash to Nas's Roar, we're bridging the past, hip-hop's core.
Spin that back show. We back once again. 10:30 Saturday mornings after the Focus Up show at 9 o'clock on Saturday mornings.
And we apologize for that Focus Up show. It got a little bit out of hand, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Me and Mr. Nice Guy up in here. What's going on, Mr. Nice Guy? What's happening?
Oh man, Saturday football, just getting back into the thick of things. So, that's what's up. Got some shows to check out, but I'm here to speak on and give some praise and props to, Toddy T and Mixmaster Spade.
Oh, yes, sir. That's what we're going to be talking about here today. Toddy T, West Coast legend. If you don't know, this is the man that really started the reality rap thing for real, for real. He inspired Ice-T to actually do 6 in the morning. That's what he said Ice-T said. So, and then we're going to talk about the legendary, rest in peace, Mixmaster Spade. And they got an interesting story. There's a whole lot of other people around him too and everything. We're going to, talk about all this. But you got to understand, when it comes to West Coast hip-hop, LA hip-hop, Compton actually put LA hip hop on the map in a sense. I ain't gonna say put it on the map, but put it on the map for the reality stuff. Because when you think about Compton rap, the first people you think about is either Dre or NWA or Eazy-E, something like that. Maybe DJ Quick, something like that. But before NWA and Eazy-E came out, you had Mixmaster Spade and you had Toddy T. Can we spin that back on that one time? When was the first time that you can recall hearing, let's say, Toddy T?
Yeah, the first time I heard Toddy T was he had a mixtape, and it was basically a bunch of other people's beats, and he did like parodies and stuff like that. He had Roxanne, he had Rockman.
Yep.
LL Cool J had I Need a Beat. He had I Need a Bitch.
Yep.
And and it had the Batarang on there, the first version. You know what I'm saying? So that was my first, hearing him. And I mean that tape was circulating. So I'm all on the west side. They clearly on the east side. So this thing was buzzing and popping, and it was a big deal. I mean, we played it. We were bumping it for a bit. So it was an accomplishment. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let's talk about the first Batarang. That was actually done to Rappin' Duke, the Da beat. So that was a whole different beat and everything. And it was, it banged. It actually banged. And you know what was crazy about this song? This song got big on the streets. He started making copies for people that just wanted it, just kind of like off a whim. Then he realized he had to make a whole lot more copies. Then I think he got him a machine to actually make the copies for him. How the people was bootlegging back in them days. Because it got so big that people was coming to like the Rhodium and record stores, because we had record stores back in them days. You had to go buy tapes and stuff like that. This before CDs.
And downloads.
You know what a CD is.
And downloads, yeah. Before downloads, yeah.
And some of the stuff you can't even find on the internet. You know what I'm saying? But it was out there though. It's still out there. I'm pretty sure you can actually find it if you do enough searching. But the thing is, yeah, this man was selling tapes. Just the same way you heard about Too Short selling his tapes out the trunk, and E40 and all those people and whoever else did it and make money. This dude was like the pioneer of that right there out here on this side. And like I said, this is a couple of years before NWA actually hit the scene. You know what I'm saying? So, and Dre was around too. Dre, Pooh, Battle Cat, and all those other cats, they was around, doing their thing. But these cats, Dre and Pooh and all those cats that was, Yella. Well, Yella came a little later, I think. But they was around.
But it's the Lonzo Williams connection, you know what I'm saying? So when you talk about Yella and Dre, so, you know, because Lonzo was the dude as far as back and during this time. So those people out there that are doing this, so that was the network. And just to give you a little bit of context, he brought up two things. One thing, he brought up the Rhodium. We got to just tell you, the Rhodium swap meet was a super big. It's still in existence, but I mean, this was where you got a lot of the Dre tapes. You know what I'm saying? The mixtapes. This is a legendary spot for getting your bootlegs and all type of stuff like that. So that was a big deal. Then we talked about the Batarang. We just got to clarify you may not know what the Batarang is.
Let's spin it back. Let's spin it back. Spin it back one time. Let's talk about what the Batarang is.
Yeah, so the Batarang was, at some point they decided, the LAPD or whatever decided, hey, we're going to repurpose this tank, and literally they would literally just smash into crack houses, and and it's just like they could crash the wrong house. I think they did. That was probably one of the reasons. Yeah, that's probably the reasons why it didn't last so long. And honestly, this song was probably one of the most influential things that probably getting it, basically banned and taken care of, because it's shown such a big national spotlight on this. But the bottom line is they were using a tank to just bust down people's homes. And, when a tank runs through your wall or something like that, house is done. It's one thing to kick a door down or something like that. You can put that door back up, whatever. But I mean, these things were, this was like super overreach by the LAPD, you know what I'm saying, back in the day. But it was a big issue.
And the big thing is, this is what you got to understand. This was Compton they was living in, because a lot of these cats, came up in Compton. Toddy T, native of Compton. Mixmaster Spade stay out there in Compton. This was a LAPD thing. It never even hit Compton, but it was just so known in LA because LA is it surrounds so much. It's like a little bit north of Compton. North and a little bit, to the west, I guess you would say, in a sense. But it never hit, no parts of Compton. Real talk.
Yeah.
It was an LAPD thing. But it was just, like I said, it made such an impact. But this song right here, man, this song, it got so big that even the bootleg place, the places that sold, tapes and everything, they was bootlegging it. So he said from the Bay to LA, people had the tape, you know what I'm saying? It went platinum on the streets,
Yeah, I know. That's funny. They said platinum on the streets. Literally, I'm just saying that this people was just passing this tape around. I mean, you just got access to this tape, so it really did, reach the four corners. That was a real thing that happened. So I mean, that was an accomplishment.
It actually got him a record deal. So the one that you hear on the radio now, if you hear the Batarang, this is the second version. After you got with I think it's called Eve Jim Records. It was ran by Leon Hayward, the man that made that song, I Want to Do Something Freaky to You. Or in other words, what's that song Dr. Dre made? Ain't nothing but a G thing, baby, G thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's that beat. That the actual beat, that's that song right there. So that dude gave him a record deal. That's when they made the Batarang. And eventually they got picked up by Epic. And he started going through Epic after that. And after that, in fact, they had made Just Say No at Lonzo's house, since you mentioned Lonzo, and Dr. Dre put that together for him.
This song is dope. And it was funny. I forgot what it was, because when I saw it's like Just Say No, then I played it, and like literally all the words are coming back to me, all the cuts and scratches, everything that was played out. It was just I was like, oh, this is what that song was. Dope song. You know what I'm saying? And this was a hip hop song. This is when they, again, this is what they were on their DJ stuff. So they mixing and, people not caring too much about, clearing samples and stuff like that. So they're sticking a whole bunch of stuff in there, whatever they want. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, Big Butt Bertha. That song was in there. Then it had Doom. It's a Shame.
Yeah.
It's a Shame. It's playing all through there.
You can freely do all types of stuff. This is when you were, still kind of getting away with this stuff. You know what I'm saying? So it's a special era.
I think they wasn't even playing that stuff. I mean, I know they took the Big Butt Bertha. That was a sample. But It's a Shame. I think they actually had somebody playing that.
Yeah.
I forgot his name. It was, some great artists. They said they can play anything, the guitar, the keys, the horn, and drums, and anything else.
Hey, when you listen to Batarang was a legitimate song. I mean, they got, you know what I'm saying? And I mean this with the utmost respect that, hip hop rap wasn't terribly sophisticated in the beginning. I mean, in the very beginning, they had instruments and they were playing like, you talking about like Melly Mel and the Furious Five, you know what I'm saying? They were sampling in a sense, but
or more
but
like Sugar Hill.
Yeah, Sugar Hill, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, they were playing stuff. So, you were getting that. But I mean, there was a time
and Curtis Blow.
yeah, exactly. So they basically have a band. They're like really whatever,
Right.
But there was a time when you're really just sort of like a beat, maybe some stabs, just simple type stuff. You know what I'm saying? And that the Batarang went all in. They went for music. They went for, it was an official production. It is a dope song. They did a really good job on it. You know what I'm saying? It's very old school.
And it was using a whole lot of instruments and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it was already kind of out there in a sense.
Yeah.
And plus, he said he got the inspiration to write the Batarang from listening to The Message. You know what I'm saying? He was like,
it's got a messagey vibe. It's you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
definitely, it does. So
because it's telling the story. The Message was the first song that I heard rapping that was actually telling the story from a street perspective and just giving you the whole, just the whole story and everything. And everybody on the streets could actually relate to that song. A whole lot of people couldn't relate to that song, but so I gave him the inspiration to do that. And from that song, The Batarang, like I say, Ice-T said he got the inspiration to make 6 a.m. So there you go.
Part of his inspiration. The rest of his inspiration was stealing that from Schoolie D from PSK. Yeah. But I get it. Hey, we all have multiple influences. Ice-T was an influence for me. Reckless, you know what I'm saying? I started rapping in '84. You know what I'm saying? And it was probably right out of breaking and stuff like that, because my first rhymes was basically about my breakdance crew. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it was. But so shout out to our many roads of inspiration. You know what I'm saying? What we're exposed to.
Exactly. That's why it's called the Spin That Back show. We gotta spin that on back. So yes, sir. So stuff like that was going on back in these days. Because the Batarang, it was like a funny song in a sense, but it was, you might laugh at it today, but it was really what was going on pretty much. The rhymes was kind of rudimentary in a sense, but they was telling the story. And you can actually, picture what was going on. This is the precursor to the NWAs, the Eazy-E's and all this old stuff. You know what I'm saying? And then Eazy, in fact, when they was making a Just Say No, he said he was going in and Eazy and them was coming out. And he ran to Eazy, like, man, what you doing here? He's like, man, they got me rapping. Like, nigga, you can't rap, because he knew Eazy. You know what I'm saying? Knew Eazy from the neighborhood. Like, nigga, you can't rap. He was like, man, yeah, well, they got me rapping right about now. And he was like, man, check this out. What you gonna be doing? Basically, like, what you gonna do? And Eazy was like, I'm gonna just get on there, rap, and cuss as much as I can. He's like, man, you can't do that, man. I tried to do that. They said I couldn't do it. He's like, yeah, no, that's what we're doing.
Like and he did it. And he did it. He pulled it off. They pulled it off. They took a non-rapper and they made a viable rapper out of him. You know what I'm saying? And he had a dope voice. He had the tools, but it was laborious. They pushed through and they made it work. So salute to the legend of Eazy-E. But back to this man, Toddy T.
Yes, sir. But speaking on Eazy, rest in peace. Once again. Yes, sir. Yeah, Toddy T. And then we gotta talk about this though. It all started with Mixmaster Spade. Now, Mixmaster Spade, I think, probably was a little older than them. And he used to go to New York for the summer, stay with his grandmother, and come back with all kinds of, New York mixtapes and stuff. And he started making mixtapes, to make a long story short on this part. He started making mixtapes and everything. And he was like, he was a DJ, of course. But he was just saying these dudes raps, like these East Coast dudes raps, slower and like to a melody, like that, like fairy tales or whatever, and or nursery rhymes basically, and just using these people's raps and making songs out of it, mostly using Genius of Love. Everybody know that
song. Classic song.
Yeah, and a whole lot of these mixtapes, stuff that was on the mixtapes you done heard on records. You know what I'm saying?
And honestly, in all fairness, that's always how it was. The original break beats that people were using, all this stuff. I mean, Marley was putting this stuff on vinyl, but a lot of these things were the break beats that all of these the big East Coast DJs were using regularly to rhyme to. So you're basically taking what was going on in the parks and what's going on in the parties. You know what I'm saying, and just bringing it to the vinyl. So that's what Mixmaster Spade was doing. He's taking it from the parties because he was out there. He was out there on the East Coast. He observed that. He's like, I'm gonna bring that flavor back here. So he was doing it.
He had another protege called Mixmaster Ken. He was one of Toddy T's homeboys and everything. They went to school together. I think they was in class together. Dude was like a class clown, making jokes and everything. And Toddy T was over there writing rhymes. He was like, man, what you doing? He's like, I'm writing rhymes. Like, oh, you trying to rap? Okay, well, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, they got together and everything. And he actually co-wrote the Better Round.
Mm.
Yeah. Interesting, huh? So, Mixmaster Spade ended up making something called the Compton Posse, which was Mixmaster Ken, a couple of other dudes, dude named DJ Var, DJ Vegas, King T. Toddy T wasn't actually a part of it. It was probably some other people's too. But yeah, so Ken actually came up under Mixmaster Spade, learned how to DJ and everything, scratch and everything. He was making mixtapes, making his money like that, and probably doing other stuff in the streets. But he was, he ended up being a good DJ too. You know what I'm saying? He kind of inspired, in my opinion, he inspired like Tony A. If you listen to like those Tony A mixtapes from the Rhodium back in the day, yeah, Tony A was a beast. And this dude used to, say something like, yeah, I'm the dopest DJ around, or whatever, I'm the, whatever slang they was using for the best DJ at the time. And then he'll have some like Jam on saying, yeah, we know, you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that, bro. He was like clever, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he had his little drops, basically what you're saying. Yeah, so that's
exactly. So, but Mixmaster Spade, he always seemed like he was kind of like singing and stuff, and all his little stones, you know what I'm saying? He has his own little style and everything. And you couldn't front on it because everybody liked it. It just was like kind of silly in a sense, but it worked. It worked for him.
Hey, I always say whenever they bring it up, I have to bring up Bobby Jimmy when he was making a diss track, when he was dissing all the West Coast rappers, and he said, somebody told me I could sing and rhyme, and I want to do the shit all the time. Show shot, body rock. So that's tongue in cheek, but he was that guy. So when you talk about sing rappers, you have people like Domino and stuff that would come later. Mixmaster Spade was the OG. He was the original. He was the source.
Yeah. He was doing that same thing on every record, though. He was like kind of like doing that sing-songy thing. And he was doing that before anybody. In fact, he had his own little lane with that, though. And in fact, on that Just Say No song, I think he started that song off. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, he on the song, that's for sure. They say he had a car accident or something. He came in a wheelchair and actually dropped that. Yeah. So,
I remember the song you talk about. I remember the song that I really loved from him was Genius is Back. I think it's called Genius is Back. But I know that it was the song that Mixmaster Spade, where it was exclusively of him. And of course, he was using Genius to Love. Mm-hmm. But I remember it starts off with Aretha Franklin with the rock steady. You know what I'm saying? It was such a dope hip hop thing to take that, you know what I'm saying, and flip it like that. So again, this was a very hip hopian part of the early East Coast. Early West Coast rap. West Coast rap was really scratching and just DJ, supreme DJing, but really mixing and just really hitting you with a lot of stuff. So it was dope.
Now you had a whole lot of good DJs that ended up coming up. The Joe Coolies, the Bobcats, the a whole lot of them. I can't even think of them. But this dude probably originated all that old stuff right there on the West Coast because he was getting the influence from the East Coast. So 83. I mean, at least
he was doing mixtapes in '83. That's the ways back. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's that lets you know.
And you can tell me somebody that was doing it before him, You know, I invite you to give me some people right now. Just drop it in the chat. I want to see
for
right
real.
now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely.
You know what I'm
So,
saying?
you know.
So Mixmaster Spade, I gotta just give it up one more time. This man is like a archive right there. He never got the props that he really needed or deserved. But on the West Coast, he does. You know, people do know him. But people like Dre just outshine everybody, of course. You know, but they all came up around the same time, though, because we started hearing Dre about 84, 85, you know, for real. But it all started with this cat. But, you know, like I say, they actually founded the Compton thing, but Eazy put it on the map.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. No, they definitely they put the name out there. But again, that was really the beginnings of West Coast hip hop, really. Because I mean, you have what Ice-T was doing, but I mean that was still, you know, that's still after. I mean, you're talking about breaking and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But it was really the Compton movement that was really the early West Coast, you know, movement that really did something. You know.
Yep.
Shout out to Lonzo.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Because
shout out to Lonzo. Let me spin that back. Where is it at? Come on. Yeah, Lonzo, the godfather of West Coast hip hop. That's real. His name does stand. He's a good dude. He done did a whole lot of stuff because they was out there too. Actually, you got to think about that. You know, that was
world class record crew.
Yeah, you had the Wrecking Crew. You had Rudy Party and them. Who's that? Dream Team.
Ooh, the Dream Man. That song, yeah. Yes, they're here. The Dream Team is here.
Time? No, actually,
yeah, that was around that time. It was definitely around that time. You know,
yeah, it was around. That was about 85, somewhere around up in there. Somewhere around. But anyway, you had all that type of stuff. Then you had Egyptian Lover and you know, those other cats.
Now we talk about Uncle Jam's Army and stuff like that.
Right.
So shout out to Egyptian Lover, who's still doing stuff to this day. I follow dude on Facebook. Man, he's still touring. He's still rocking he got a gold 80 rolling 808.
He do.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? He's still rocking doing this stuff. So
he bring the 808 on stage too and be rocking with it, right?
yeah, that gold dude,
man.
Hey, Born Alive, we talked about it. He's our Africa Bambaataa. He was that dude that was doing that stuff, and you know he was making the music that got you dancing, but he was doing all the sexy stuff for the ladies and getting them doing what you wanted them to do. So you know, the Egyptian Lover, legendary hip hop guy.
Legendary. We might have to do it. I think we already did.
Yeah, but anyway, he's definitely worthy.
Yes, sir. So yeah, that type of, but you know, that was all that electronic, like upbeat, you know, music and everything. Everything that you hear, like in Beach Street and breaking and all that type of stuff, was the type of stuff that was going on. Then this man came with the Battle Ram. That kind of changed it all right there.
Yeah, the pace is completely different because, you know, again, on the West Coast, it was just like we didn't have those East Coast dances. Like the East Coast, they had dances to slow music. Pretty much our dances were the fast stuff. So if you wanted people to dance, you had to do stuff like do you want to go to the liquor store? You know what I'm saying? Or, you know, those, you know, Dr. Dre surgery and stuff like that. That was the stuff, you know, so that we were definitely on that, what they call that, the electric. I forget the term that they call it, but, you know, it's a term for it.
Like West Coast, electro.
It's like electro funk.
Yeah, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we was on that, and that's the only alternatives that you had. Yeah. So I think when he started, like I say, when he did this, that made Dre and all them. That's when Dre and all them started thinking like, let's start making different, you know, music differently. So
and come out of the mascara.
But you're right about, you know, but like, you want to go to the liquor store and all that old type of stuff. And that was a Spade, you know what I'm saying? Whatever you were saying on that song, you know, he had a whole lot of stuff that, you know, but it wasn't really, it was like you hear it on K-Day and stuff like that, but you hear mostly like on tapes and stuff though, back in those days. A lot of this stuff you just really heard.
And St. Ives commercials, because they flipped it on, you know, do you want to go to the liquor store and get some St. Ives, baby? You know, they flipped
the first one, I think it said 8 Ball.
Yeah, the original song is 8 Ball, but you know, when he did this, but that's what happened. El Pooh got the connection with St. Ives, and that's when he was basically doing, King T was doing St. Ives commercial, Ice Cube was doing St. Ives commercial.
In that back one time. That's actually DJ Pooh. Yeah,
DJ Pooh. What I say? That's what I've been saying.
El
DJ
Pooh.
Pooh.
Yeah. It was actually DJ Pooh. Don't get us confused because that's definitely not me.
Yeah, my bad.
No,
You
it's
know,
all good though.
Red from Friday.
Yeah. Co-wrote Friday, the original one.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Anyway, that's a bad dude because Pooh been around all the West Coast, the early stuff in the West Coast. Actually, you know what? The early stuff in the West Coast, and he was one of the original people that went to the East Coast and worked with LL, and East Coast artists.
LA Posse.
Yes. Pooh was part of that.
Yep. So, he was that guy. All I think about when I think about King T, which is the connection to Mixmaster Spade, because he got those songs with him. He like, you better, if you go to Compton, you better bring a gun. You know what I'm saying? You better have a gun. I don't remember which one it is, but the bottom line is, he was doing that, and King T was always shouting out DJ Pooh. Even though he had his own DJ, Keith Cooley. You know what I'm saying? But he's still shouting out DJ Pooh, the producer. So, Pooh was doing big things back in the day.
Joe Cooley used to DJ for Toddy T for a minute.
Really? Joe Cooley was my favorite DJ, my favorite K-Day Mixmaster DJ. I mean, that dude scratching, it was artistry. And I say that as a DJ, and I was a very good DJ, you know what I'm saying? So, you have maybe a little bit more sophisticated taste about, the tightness of scratches and the speed and all this other stuff. And Joe Cooley, he was that dude. He had that crazy finger wave, and he was definitely on some Compton, like whatever, But notwithstanding that, the art, the music that was coming out of that dude's fingers, man, he was that dude. I love Joe Cooley.
Man, spin that back one time. Joe Cooley is one of the most underrated DJs out there. People don't actually give him his props too. That's what I'm gonna say. Yeah,
and he won that DMC contest. That was some BS. It's on video. You can Google it and listen to it. I'm saying he won that. You know what I'm saying? That was politics. That was East Coast politics.
Speaking on DJing, King T started off as a DJ. Then he went into rapping, huh? Didn't you tell the story about that?
I don't know about that, but I didn't tell that story. But that's how a lot of the people, I really cut my nut when I was really doing stuff. I was a DJ before people. I wrote a rap before I was ever got my DJ equipment, but I wasn't really a rapper. I just wrote a rap for my breakdance crew, and it wasn't no serious thing. It was just a guy doing something. But as a DJ, I was actually DJing and doing stuff, and I did that before I actually really dug into rapping and stuff like that. So yeah. Right. So, a lot of us start off like that,
Yeah, I didn't really start off as a DJ. I just knew a lot of songs and stuff, from just having stuff, just having tapes and stuff, making tapes, especially making tapes. See, it's something we used to do. We used to take a radio and have a tape player. And when a certain song come on, you can actually record it off the radio. You just record a gang of songs, and you just got a tape with a lot of songs that you got off the radio. And you can make a mixtape like that.
Hey, well, at least when someone used to tell you back in the day, hey, you heard that new song? That was the beauty of K-Day. I would sit by that tape, and I get it. In 24 hours, I'm gonna get that song. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. That's for real. So yeah, no, we relied on that stuff. It was AM, so it wasn't the clearest. Mm-hmm. But it worked. It still had the bass, it just didn't have the treble. The high fidelity, I should say. It didn't have the high fidelity.
But you'll get the song, so you can. Yeah. So when you walking down the street and somebody playing in the car, and you say some of the words, and you be like, "Yeah, I know that song."
You only hearing the low frequencies first anyway, so that's what's up. And that was back in the day when you could really blast in your car and not be. You do that now. Please, yeah.
Yeah, but back in the day, you want to be up on stuff. I don't know if that's just a young people thing, but as far as this hip hop, because hip hop was new back in these days, especially on the West Coast. It was super fresh. And then the way that there was, like I say, when this came along, this kind of like changed everything. You did have Ice-T was out there, but his stuff was still kind of like upbeat and everything at that point. But he was rapping, he was actually, like I say, he was like the king of the West Coast at that time. It was just Ice-T. It was like, then came Toddy T. Mm-hmm. And then when Toddy T came, it was like, okay, he kind of, he had this little thing for a bright second, but Ice-T carried on, what I'm saying? Then came Ice Cube and, whoever else came after that. But yeah, I'm just saying.
No,
And the reason why I just mentioned Ice Cube in particular because Ice Cube had a long career, consistent, and then he went into like other stuff, acting and stuff like that.
Shame on you, Ari Spears. But yeah, exactly. Ice Cube is a legend.
In fact, you know what? We gotta put something. We gotta give him that. Ari Spears, man, he ain't even worthy to be talking bad about Ice Cube. How you gonna talk bad about Ice Cube, man? Ice Cube did so much for you. I mean, and everybody else for the culture, as far as that's concerned. We don't know you. You know what I'm saying? I don't know you. I ain't watched no Mad TV and none of that stuff. When you popped up, it's like I kind of know this dude, but then he ain't funny. He all right, but you ain't no top comedian.
Hey, the most famous thing I think about Ari Spears, and again, I'm not about to be piling on a brother.
Right.
I mean, that was his honest opinion. I just thought it was a ridiculous opinion to take. I get it. Some people are not your cup of tea. That's why we get into it, about what shows, who we going to cover on this show. We got to cover our cup of tea. We can't really talk about something that we can't really mess with.
That's right.
But I'm just saying that for you to not even object, for you to be a hip hopper and not think that Ice Cube didn't do great things like hip hop wise. You're talking about Death Certificate, arguably one of the greatest hip hop albums of all time. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, it blew my mind. But what I was saying, when I think about Ari Spears, I mean, I think about that podcast on with him and 50/50, the 5150 show that didn't go very well for Mr. Spears. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, it's like, you definitely don't want to be drawing too much attention to yourself. But again, I don't want to be besmirching the dude just giving his honest opinion. I just felt like he was kind of putting Cube down, and Cube's done way too much to be putting him down. If you don't like Cube, I get it. If you think he stole something from you, he might have, but you know what I'm saying? Notwithstanding that, he's still the dude. LL did my dude dirty. But you know what? He's still LL. He's still a great inspiration for me, a great inspiration for everybody. So I'm not going to take nothing away. LL is the mother effing man as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well, let me spin this back one time. I understand everything you're saying. I agree with it. But let's get back to what we was talking back on the topic over here. Back to like the Compton G's, the Toddy T's, the Mixmaster Spades. So one thing I can say about, these type of songs, they was kind of like, even though they was kind of slowed down and, cool and telling, stories and everything, and Mixmaster Spade singing and everything. It was kind of like recreational rap in a sense, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't really serious, you know what I'm saying? The Battle Realm was, pretty serious in a sense, but it was still kind of like corny in a sense, trying to kind of be, like jokingly, until Easy and them came. They made stuff sound serious, especially like what most people might understand, Straight Outta Compton. When as soon as you hear Ice Cube say that, just all the seriousness and everything that was in there.
After name Ice Cube, yeah. And
it's
like, again, you're talking about that's the hardcore. That's because it was like a hustle. These dudes are trying to make money. They're trying to do stuff that's gonna get on the radio. NWA, they really didn't give a damn about the radio.
Say it again, bro. Say it again. They wasn't looking for no radio play at all. They was looking for neighborhood play. They wanted to go platinum, and they didn't even want to go platinum. They just want to be known, what they do and make some money, basically.
Somebody talked them into making radio versions of their songs, but
well, to get it on the radio, Greg Mack, and shout out to Greg Mack,
legendary,
and he's still on the radio. I think he's on the wave now.
Legendary hip hop K-Day DJ, So yeah, that's what's up.
Yeah, Greg Mack, the Mac Attack. Yeah, but Greg Mack, man, he made sure that everything was right and everything. Say give me a radio version, and he'll play it, and he played it. That's why he's even on that song radio. You know what I'm saying? That was actually him, and that's exactly how it went on the radio station. Basically, well, not really exactly like that, but it is what it is. Greg Mack, shout out to you. Keep on doing your thing. We're gonna spin that back. But they was kind of like, being like just trying to make, be jovial a little bit about it, you know what I'm saying? And keep it kind of like, tongue in cheek, you know what I'm saying?
Light.
Yeah, it was light. It wasn't really no real serious, stuff going on until, we heard that, in my opinion, you know what I'm saying? Well, actually 6 in the morning was kind of like, it was kind of a serious type rap in a sense.
Well,
So you
definitely,
kinda
it
persuade-
was an effort to go there. It was very serious, but again, that was all established with Parkside Killers. I mean, that Parkside College PSK, that it's a banging song. It's a dope song because this is a dude who was an instrumental dude. So he put all the music elements together. The percussion is very sophisticated. He had patterns that were very musical after a fashion, but he was talking about some hardcore gangster shit. Parkside Killers. You know what I'm saying? So that was some gangster rap, and definitely.
Did you really hear Parkside Killers out here back in them days?
Man, I'm telling you, PSK and Gucci, those songs was banging out here.
I
They
know
really
looking at my
was.
Gucci. I know looking.
It
You know
was.
what? I do remember looking at my
Them
Gucci.
songs was out. Them songs was out here, man. I'm telling you, PSK was out here. I had the vinyl. Now, granted, I had a lot of vinyl, so everything that I got wasn't necessarily what the mainstream was consuming, but PSK was getting like big run. I mean, it was. Hey,
But PSK even came after Battle Ram too, right? PSK
I'm not
had something like
sure.
86, something like that, right?
I'm not sure when PSK came out. I'm not sure. I just know that it came out long before 6 in the morning. Because 6 in the morning, he like literally does the rap style, the patterns, everything he's doing is 100%. Is PSK. So even if that's not to say that he wasn't inspired by the battle rap, because he's basically telling real West Coast stuff. PSK wasn't about West Coast stuff. Battle Ram was about stuff that was happening out here. 6 in the morning is about stuff that's happening out here. You know what I'm saying? So
true. Let me see.
I've been going on. You were sitting. It looked like you were looking up to see when PSK dropped. So, but it was definitely, that was the one. So, and again, I mean, a lot of those songs. I mean, when you talk about songs like Latoya, you know what I'm saying? Just there was those East Coast songs that they still hit out here. You know what I'm saying, with Just Ice.
You know what? That was actually 85 too.
Yeah. No, it was again. That was that time. So,
right. Damn. Okay.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about it because I had the record and Schoolie D was smart. He did the album, but he did all the drawing. He did all the writing.
Right.
So he trademarked it. So he got money off the top because of that. You know what I'm saying? So you normally get ranked as an artist, but everybody else gets paid first as far as people with trademarks and this, that, and the other. So I know that was one of the things that Ice-T suggested, saying, hey, this is what you want to do, make some money. Trademark something that you put on your album cover, that'll definitely be another stream. So yeah, but I became a DJ after the Fresh Festival when that happened in Long Beach. And I remember getting the PSK record. That was one of my early records.
Okay, yes, sir. Because I think he did all his albums though, right? Because they all look like.
Yeah, you're talking about Schoolie D. You're talking about drawing. Yeah, exactly.
I ain't mad at
artists. Yeah, I ain't mad at him neither. If you have the skill enough to write it, I mean, I ain't gonna say that it was the neatest writing, but you wouldn't be able to read my writing, so that's an accomplishment right there. But the artistry, it definitely looked graffiti when he did himself. That's some b-boy stuff.
But who would have thought? Who would have thought of doing some stuff called Rockman? Roxanne. Come on now, that was some crazy stuff from back in the day.
And Roxanne, I'm telling you, that song took over the world. You know what I'm saying? So he did something that was completely unrelated. He just flipped it. It was a parody, and again, that's talking about the West Coast stuff. You know what I'm saying? I understand that was going on the East Coast, but he's talking about what he was experiencing out there on the West Coast. And he's using terms like the cluck, which you saw the clucks come out at night.
Yeah, the clucks come out at night.
Yeah, that's a West Coast term, I'm sure. You know what I'm saying? So
that's a Compton term, actually.
Exactly. So
because I didn't hear cluck. I mean, I didn't really pay no attention to the word cluck until NWA. Cluckhead. I'm like, huh? The hell is a cluck?
Strawberries and stuff like that.
Well, strawberry. That was just a West Coast term. I think that was LA term actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, strawberry was a big one right there. But cluck, I ain't never heard nobody in my neighborhood use that. But yeah, but Rockman, ain't that something? That just always kills me. So they was doing like parody rap. So they was kind of like putting the same category as Bobby Jimmy and the Critters in a sense too. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean by the lighthearted, being light-witted and everything. Because, it wasn't really trying to be hardcore, which is, a good thing.
There's another lane. We ain't all got to be that. You know what I'm saying? Hip-hop started fun. You know what I'm saying? It's party music. That's what it was. So, it ain't necessarily about being all talking about killers or harsh things and stuff like. Shout out to NWA what they did. I mean, again, that's a story that need to be told as well. But it's okay to make this other music.
Yeah. I mean, they just did it like it's. But the thing is, they wasn't looking for anything, you know what I'm saying, out of it. You know what I'm saying? But these people was just having fun with music. So that's the other thing. People was having fun with music back in these days. You know what I'm saying? Everything was. You can go to these concerts. Like Toddy T said, his first big concert was at the sports arena. Him, Ice-T, UTFO, and probably the Boogie Boys, and probably some other people's. Something like that. Something like that. Don't quote me to it. But some people's, back in those days and everything. And it was just like, man, you didn't have to worry about getting stabbed up and nothing. Everything was just cool. It was just, because even the music reflected, good times, basically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like you say, the Fresh Fest and everything. What happened there? That was what
that
was Run DMC.
So that was Run DMC. Yeah, the Fresh Festival was Run DMC. Mm-hmm. It was Houdini. It was the Fat Boys and Curtis Blow. Now I went to the youth matinee. For whatever reason, the Fat Boys didn't perform for that. And, which is kind of shocking to me because they were the younger cats. You think that they paid. I mean, maybe they had a real grown. I don't know what was going on. But suffice it to say, we didn't get to see the Fat Boys, but we got to see the other ones, got to see Jam Master Jay Cutting. And it was Jam Master Jay Cutting, run at the Fresh Festival. That's when I went to my mom, was like, I want some turntables. That's what made me want to be a DJ. So, that happened. So, salute to that. And we talk about, you said it was a nice whatever to go that we went to youth matinee and wasn't all those problems. I hear about the older one version, the later one, that there was some problems. And it might have been
LL, right?
I don't think LL was part of the Fresh Festival.
Okay.
But it was about Big U, jumping up on stage or whatever, doing stuff, or fighting people in the crowd and stuff like that, because he was on some super gang banging stuff back in those days. So
is that right?
So if you look, go ahead and Google those stories and stuff like that. There was some big disruption. I mean, he was doing stuff. He was like jumping on stage when Michael Jackson was performing, and people was scared to do something about it because you have security, but the security be from the neighborhood. They be like, "That's Big U." You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, so you go ahead and research that stuff. I mean, that was very disruptive stuff, but I do respect the music that they were doing, and those were fun times. You know what I'm saying? We didn't know too much about them. We was kids. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I ain't never heard the story about Big U jumping up on stuff. I heard about him being at World on Wheels acting a fool, but I ain't
check it out.
Actually, I heard about being at the concert. I didn't know the specifics on it though. Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah. It was the Fresh Festival, and that's one of the things that made me think. I'm glad that I wasn't. We wouldn't have been caught. We was kids. They wouldn't be sitting there messing with us. I wouldn't think. But but when he talked about, like, even on stage with Michael Jackson, I mean, he wasn't messing with Michael Jackson while he was performing, but he was on stage. But people wouldn't like get him off the stage because, like I said, they was like, "That's Big U." And he's a big ass dude, especially back then. This is a prime, just like super, like, whatever. So, he was a West Coast superhero for real.
He got a reputation, but personally, I don't know the dude. You know what I'm saying? I don't deal with his people, so hey, it is what it is. But let me spin this back one time. I think we done went the wrong way. So,
we done drifted.
Yeah. There we go. Let's back on track now. All right. So back to our peoples here. So these are real Compton OGs and everything. And like I say, Compton really put LA on the map to be 100% with it, in a sense, because you did have Lonzo and them out there, you did kind of have them out there, but I don't know.
Well, what were they performing? They were performing at the skate, I forgot what the skate rink or whatever. That's in Compton. That's Skateland. That's literally, I mean, the site is still up. It's no longer functioning, but the location is still abandoned up. I mean, it's basically right there by Centennial. So that's Compton. You know what I'm saying? It's just,
Oh no, that's Skateland? Right there on off of
Skateland.
Off El Segundo and
it's off of El Segundo. It's south of
Avalon.
south of El Segundo. No, it's central. It's central. That's Central.
It's Central.
So south of El Segundo, and it's west of Central, but it's on Central. So yeah, now you can literally go there right now and see basically that vacant lot. It's a big property if somebody wanted to do something about it, but it's just like the mall that's sitting there, the mall that the stop whatever that Crenshaw Mall, Hawthorne Mall. Yeah, it's a big ass mall that nobody's just using. It's just an empty ass mall, and it's humongous.
Yeah, real shit. Yeah, I remember the Hawthorne Mall used to be cracking back in the day.
It was cracking. It was cracking. It was definitely.
Damn. Yeah, it's still that don't mean that shit been abandoned for at least 20 years, huh?
Oh my goodness.
Longer than that.
Lord, hey, Lord knows what's going on inside that mug, though.
Real, huh? Yeah. Gotta be something happening in there. Too much. It's like you said, it's a whole lot of space in that big ass mall. It's a big ass mall.
You can just do something with that, I mean, it's just a shame. We got a lot of property out there, a lot of real estate that's just not doing nothing. That the real estate, hey, when they did when they did a Boys, what's the movie with Janet Jackson, John Singleton, Tupac?
Poetic Justice.
Poetic Justice. Mm-hmm. So you remember when they were in the drive-in in the beginning with Q-Tip? That lot is still open over here as well. You know what I'm saying? But they had to close down the drive-ins. People was getting jacked. You go to a drive-in, you're extremely vulnerable. That's your car. That's all your everything. Yeah.
Was that on Rosecrans somewhere?
It's on Rosecrans, yeah. So
yeah. Oh yeah. I'll tell you like this, way out of my bounds, so I don't know. I don't know nothing about that. The only one I knew of was like the one on 190th in Vermont, something like that. Yeah, the Vermont. I think it was 190th in Vermont. That's going closer towards the Rhodium.
Yeah. LA wasn't the place for that. That was just too much of an opportunity.
Didn't they used to have a Centinela?
Yeah, they had one in Culver City. They had definitely and that again, we used to go there and the thing about it is cheap. So you just go there, you stick the little radio out, you turn to the radio station. There was like an AM radio station that would basically play play the audio for whatever. So that was a very cheap opportunity. It wasn't necessarily about going on a date, bringing your female. That's obviously a great thing to do because now you got a car and you're trying to do something in the back seat or something like that. But that's the thing about it. You're extremely vulnerable. That's how people get caught slipping.
Yeah, so, for the most part, I was too young for that shit anyway because most of it goes down by the time I could drive.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I remember going there as a kid, though. I went to a couple of them. That was with my parents, though. Stuff like that. So, it is what it is. But yeah, so to close this one out, let's just say, these was like some good cats right here, though. Like who was it? We was talking about Toddy T. And we was talking about
Mixmaster Spade, which is all the connection to King T and all these other people, because their first songs that they dropped, Mixmaster Spade, he was Nate Dogg before Nate Dogg, you know what I'm saying? So that's what it was. That's
exactly what that is. He was definitely Nate Dogg before Nate Dogg. Rest in peace to Nate Dogg, because we do need Nate Dogg around. I mean, we needed, he was a necessary.
Oh yeah.
Justice.
He did it. He pulled it off masculine singing. And rest in peace, Mixmaster Spade. You know what I'm saying? We lost him as well. So
Yeah. Real talk. In fact, I'm trying to get his picture back up here. I can't seem to get it on here for some reason.
Let me try.
Yeah, this shit is big tripping over here for me.
We apologize that we're having technical difficulties.
Yeah, right about now. The most unopportune time. But anyway, yes, sir. So I was just saying, so if it wasn't for them, who knows what would have been, because I don't know what would have been. But then again, if it wasn't for Easy, and everything that went on in that NWA movie, as they say, because we know it probably didn't happen like that, but for the most part, it did. So if it wasn't for them getting together and everything, y'all probably wouldn't even know anything about Compton.
Man. It's just opportunity. I mean, just the fact that even JJ Fad was the pop sensation enough to make them the money, to finance a lot of the stuff. We understand what was happening on the dope side, on the street side, should I say, as far as Easy financing what they're doing, but it's all connected. Without this thing that creates the money for the next thing, if it wasn't for Vanilla Ice being dangled off a balcony, of course the story changes. You wouldn't have Death Row. I mean, that was the money that they used to do all of that stuff, and the dude was rightfully owed, and I mean, again, you can say what you want about Suge's tactics or whatever, but if the guy was owed the money, we just skipped all the lawyers and all the BS. He got the money, and he created one of the greatest music outlets that we have. So that's what happened. I got Mixmaster Spade up there, so
Yes, sir. Rest in peace, Mixmaster Spade. Like I say, he came back from the East Coast for those summer vacations. Come out here, taking other people's rhymes, slowing them down, doing them nursery style, making mixtapes, making money on the streets with these mixtapes. Showed a whole lot of other people how to be DJs, and showed you how to make the money on the streets. He was kind of like the creator of the out the trunk mixtapes out here on the West Coast. And he got it from the East Coast. So he brought that hip hop element from the East Coast out here to the West Coast.
Man, people that went back and forth like summer vacations and stuff like that, people like Born a Law, that was a great asset. Because music traveled kind of slow back in those days. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't a lot of time. We might be bumping something that came out like months before on the East Coast. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like it was a great asset to be over there to go taste that culture and then come over here and experience this culture. You know what I'm saying? And there's definitely some overlap, but there's some distinctiveness as well. So that's a great accomplishment. You know what I'm saying? That's great exposure.
Yep. So with that being said, I think that should be about it, unless you got some more things to say about this right about now.
Nope, just I appreciate these dudes. I didn't rock them as hard as I should have. In retrospect, I've listened to a few more songs that I didn't hear that I'm thinking like, boy, back in the day, I would have been circulating the crap out of this. You know what I'm saying? So I can't say it enough. These dudes was really good at what they did. They were very inspirational and impactful for what they did. Their contribution was humongous out here. And, we just salute their legacy. They some real ones, some musical real ones. You know what I'm saying? That's what's up.
Yep. So salute to that. So anyway, catch us next week on the Spin That Back show. We will be back hopefully next week. We'll check it out and see if we will be here next week, but just check us out anyway. If not, just watch us on YouTube. And thank you for being here.